Unsung Murder Ballads discusses topics of a disturbing nature.
And we're not going to hold back on the graphic details and disturbing content.
So we do not recommend our podcast for children under the age of 13.
And while we respect the victims and their families involved in these tragic cases,
we're also going to be critical of mistakes that are made during the investigations.
And we're going to use dark humor to express ourselves now and then.
So with that said, this podcast may not be for everyone.
And that's okay. We're glad you're here checking us out.
And if you've made it this far, welcome to the Unsung Murder Ballads family. And follow us on Instagram at Unsung Murder Ballads if you want to talk to us.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Unsung Murder Ballads. This is a special episode. We're revisiting episode 3. I am Janus Dead, and I'm here with two friends, McKenna and Madster.
Hello, thank you so much for having us. I'm excited to do this podcast and learn a lot about it. It's going to be interesting.
I'm very excited as well. I want to learn more about murder and all that fun stuff that we always hear about these stories from our friend Janus.
It's funny, you said I want to learn more about murder, like you're planning to do one, so that'll be fun.
No. I would never be able to accomplish that. I'm not smart enough for that with common sense.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I know quite a bit about it, and I don't think I could get away with murder either. So believe me, you're in good company here. All right, so I'm going to start off with a little teaser. I like to do that. And anyone who's listened to our episode 3 the first time, this is essentially verbatim what we've done before. So the only new thing is that we have new guests that are going to listen and react to everything. And I feel like I know how to do this better, so it'll be less boring than the first, our first time around. So with that said, here is your teaser. In February of 2001, Matthew Hoffman got a job in a town called Steamboat Springs, Colorado, with a plumbing company called Scott Barnes Plumbing. Hoffman was living in a shitty motel while he was there. And in September of that year, he got restless, and he decided to steal 3 city signs, like the large ones that say, "Welcome to Steamboat Springs," like big signs.
Oh, you're not just talking about like stop signs and like crosswalk signs. Those are normal for people to steal. You're talking about like city signs.
Yeah, like the big-ass ones, yeah, the huge. Like
Wow.
how he even got him back to his hotel is beyond me.
Like the highway.
Yeah, exactly, these huge-ass signs. So police traced the signs back to his hotel, but when they got there, he had already left and returned to Ohio. It didn't take them long to figure out who it was. He literally left them in a hotel room that he had rented. So they track him down to Ohio and they call him and they're asking him about the signs. They're like, "What the hell were you doing?" And he admits to it. He's like, "Yep, that was me." And they were like, "Why did you steal these signs?" And he's like, "I wanted a souvenir."
But he didn't even take them with him.
Right. And they're massive. It's so stupid. So police tell him that he has to come back to Colorado because, he's committed a crime and he's got to own up to this. He's got to face justice, so to speak. And he's like, "All right, I'll be right there." And he drives back to Colorado.
From Ohio?
From Ohio, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So this crazy story starts to spread throughout the police station. And another detective who works there is investigating a suspicious fire. And that had happened on August 8th. And when he hears Matthew Hoffman's name, he remembers seeing that name on a list of employees, like contractors, that worked in the building development where that fire broke out. So this was like a group of townhouses, and one of them had been set on fire purposefully. And this was unit number 7, which was the exact same unit that Matthew Hoffman had worked in.
Sketch.
So obviously police, they have more questions for him. And when he arrives at their station, about the signs that he stole, they start asking him about this plumbing job. And one of the things they asked him was, why were his fingerprints found inside the car of the person who owned unit number 7? And Hoffman's like, "Oh yeah, I had to move some stuff out of my way, and I went down and I put him in this guy's car." And they're like, "Well, this car was stolen and found abandoned in the middle of the town."
Ooh.
So it always depends.
Yeah, right? So then he just leans back and he's like, "You know what? You got me." And the police are looking at him and they're like, "What do we have you for?" And then he just goes on and admits that he knew that the occupant of Unit 7 was going to be away. So after he was doing the work there, he kept going back because his shitty hotel didn't have cable, didn't have like anything to do. So he just decided that he would go there. And he stayed and he watched TV and he showered and he made meals there.
Use that as a second home almost.
Yeah, like it's better than his shitty hotel. So yeah, he would just do whatever he wanted there. Exactly. He stole this guy's car. He stole other things, but he left those things in the car when he abandoned it downtown Steamboat Springs. So he then tells the police that he knew he couldn't possibly wipe down all his fingerprints from Unit 7, and he decided his only course of action was to set fire to the place to hide what he had done.
Okay.
So he goes out and he gets 10 gallons of gasoline and he poured it throughout the townhouse. Now he
10
claimed
gallons.
that's a lot of gas.
That's a lot.
He's just adding another charge for himself.
Right?
Arson.
Well, he claimed that he knew the townhouse which was in a building complex. He knew that people lived on both sides of the unit. But he also claimed that he knew that there was a fire alarm system and that it would alert people to exit the building and get out of danger once the fire started. He's basically insisting that he didn't try to murder anybody. Now, 16 people were forced to evacuate and relocate, and the fire caused $2 million in damages that he just admitted to causing.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Hoffman was charged with arson, unlawfully and knowingly breaking and entering, first-degree aggravated motor vehicle theft, theft of property, and reckless endangerment. He pled guilty and was sentenced to 8 years in prison, but he would get out after only 6.
Is that good behavior?
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Sometimes it's overcrowding. They're just like, well, you're not a violent offender, we'll let you out. That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
He only ever paid back $4,800 of the $2 million in damages that he caused. Which, again, that's crazy to me. Like, why wouldn't you get
Wow.
more money from him? After his early release, Hoffman managed to get permission to serve his parole in Ohio instead of having to stay in Colorado. So that was the teaser. And before we go any further, I just want to let everyone know that all of the information I'm getting comes from a book called The Girl in the Leaves, which was written by Sarah Maynard, Larry Maynard, and Robert Scott. So with that said, Matthew Hoffman was born on November 11th, 1980. His childhood was relatively uneventful, and he was considered a quiet child that kept to himself. He was also known to be stubborn, and he refused to admit when he was wrong, which sounds like every American these days. He could also become hyper-fixated on things, and one of those things was trees. He was considered outdoorsy, and he had a strong obsession with trees to the point where everyone around him was making note of it. There are debates as to whether or not Hoffman had a sexual attraction to trees, and this is called dendrophilia.
That's a thing?
Exactly.
What the hell? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a thing, and I guess it gives a whole new meaning to the term tree hugger, I guess. I don't know.
I didn't think about that.
So he would go out to the woods and he would spend hours at a time just wandering around, climbing trees. He could identify every type of tree. After he got out of school, Hoffman had trouble keeping down a job due to the fact that he would become restless and he would start making really stupid decisions. And of course, this led him to move to Colorado, where we've already discussed the things that he did.
Mm-hmm.
After his release in 2006, he goes back to Ohio. Now he's on parole, but he's living out of his car, which I always thought was against probation rules. You had to have an address.
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, not at all.
Don't they also need to see like where you're at too when you're on parole to like double check? To make
Exactly.
sure?
Yeah, they have to have a place to go to do surprise visits to make sure you're not breaking the law. Exactly. So I don't know how he got away with it.
Yeah.
So this is around the time that he starts spending more and more time in the woods climbing trees. And he even went and bought himself professional tree climbing gear so that he could climb really difficult trees and get much, much higher than he would have on his own. He eventually met a woman, and around this time he also gets a job at a place called Fast Eddie's Tree Trimming. And there he was able to make enough money to buy a small house for his girlfriend and her son, and they all move in together. Now, neighbors said he was a really nice guy, and they generally liked him. They said he would teach the neighborhood kids about the types of trees and how to climb them, and he really seemed to like squirrels. And the squirrels would even approach him, and he would be able to feed them, which, of course, delighted all the children. I can't even imagine. I had an ex-girlfriend who would sit in parks with peanuts, coaxing squirrels to approach her so she could feed them. It was bizarre to me.
Boston Commons, like those squirrels love people.
I guess. I'm always afraid they'd bite me if they got close enough, but that's just me. Everything changed with Hoffman in 2010. There's no known reason why everything shifted. There's no evidence of any kind of tragic event. But suddenly he started becoming moody with everybody, and he became extremely off-putting. At the same time, they had 2 dogs, he and his girlfriend, and those dogs just disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to them.
They just went missing one night and never came back?
Correct. The dogs were just suddenly gone.
Huh.
I don't believe that. He did something.
Yeah, that's my guess. Now, Hoffman began to behave in a paranoid manner, and he started behaving as if he had to do anything he could to survive, as if something bad was coming. At this point, he started to catch and kill the squirrels, and he even started to eat them.
What?
Oh, no.
Yeah, his girlfriend stated that he would barbecue them and try to serve them to people.
That's like the first sign of like a serial killers. They start with like animals.
Yep. Yeah, it's called the McDonald Triad, and the 3 early warning signs are cruelty to animals, wetting the bed, and I'm forgetting the last one. Oh, setting fires, which we've already got 2 of those 3 with him.
Oh,
Yep.
yep. These are some big red flags, and he still has a wife. Man, I would leave.
Well, it's a girlfriend, not a wife. And my next line, in 2010, she finally left him due to concerns for her son's safety. So in October of that year, she did have to return to the house to get some of her belongings that she had left behind. And Hoffman got so upset with her for some reason that he pushed her against a wall and started choking her.
Oh my gosh.
She was able to break free and called police, but she didn't press charges because she just wanted to get away from him, which makes sense, but it also sucks for everything that comes after this.
Oh, boy.
Hoffman's co-workers started to become weary of him as well, saying that he was becoming more and more creepy. And his neighbors reported that Hoffman started climbing into the trees in their neighborhood where he would sit for hours watching them.
That's so fucking weird.
Can you imagine? There's nothing illegal about it. That's the weird part.
Oh, my God.
Now, unfortunately for Hoffman, his boss found out that he had lied on his job application about his job experience and that he had failed to disclose his criminal history. So he was fired. So what does Hoffman do next? He begins breaking into houses again. On November 9th, 2010, Hoffman parked his car a mile away from a house that had caught his attention previously. He said the reason he chose this specific house was because the garage door didn't go all the way down to the ground. Like, you could see that from the street.
So he could probably sneak in. Is that probably why he kind of liked that house?
Exactly. He believed he could slide underneath the door and get access to the rest of the house. Exactly. So he parked the car and walked a mile towards this house through a wooded area. There, he camped out in a sleeping bag, watching the family that night and waiting for the next morning for them to leave.
What the hell? That's so creepy.
Yep, exactly. It's funny because you have no idea if someone's across the street from your house watching you. No. You'd have no idea. So the people that lived in this house, we're going to discuss them for a bit. We have Tina Herman, who was a 32-year-old divorced mother of 2. She has been described as a caring mother and a fun, loving, hardworking person. She was kind and happy. She had met her ex-husband Larry when they were both 15, and they married when they were young. Now, they had a daughter who was their oldest child. She was 13 years old at the time of this event. And she was born when Larry and Tina were only 19 years old. Sarah was described as happy and energetic. They also had a son named Cody, who was 2 years younger than Sarah, and they were both very close. They were both great at sports, and they even defended other kids at school. So they're basically
Oh.
good kids. They essentially had everything they needed, even though Tina wasn't making that much money since she had separated from Larry. Larry was a long-haul trucker, and that's what led to their divorce because he's pretty much never home.
Yeah.
So Tina started working at the Target Distribution Center, and she met a man named Greg, and this would become her boyfriend, and they would eventually move in together. And they chose that house that Hoffman is now watching because it was in pretty good shape, it was in a good area, it was away from other houses, so it had a degree of privacy, but it was also across the street from this large wooded area. Now, in that neighborhood, Tina had made a new friend, a woman by the name of Stephanie Sprang. And Stephanie was considered energetic, kind, and fun. It was reported that she fit perfectly into Tina's family, and they all laughed together. They all had a great time. So at some point, Tina was laid off from the distribution center where she and Greg had worked, and she began working at the Dairy Queen in Mount Vernon, Ohio.
Wow, I used to work at a Dairy Queen. Continue.
I remember that. I actually thought about you when I was reviewing my notes here. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Madster's worked at a DQ.
Yeah, that was my first job. It was fun.
My first job was working with ice cream, but not in that situation. It wasn't fast food. You had to come in and sit down at my little ice cream parlor.
That's cute.
So as we get to late 2010, Tina and her boyfriend Greg were on the verge of breaking up, and Tina was looking for a new apartment. That's important to note for later, so just put that in your back pocket for now. So on the morning of November 10th, the day Hoffman camped out across the street from Tina's house, Sarah and Cody got up and they left for school, and Tina went out to do some errands. It was at this point that Hoffman slid under the garage door and entered the house. He would later say that at first he didn't take anything. He just wandered around the house and kind of got a thrill from being in their house without them knowing that he was there.
Scoping it out first.
Yeah, it's also really super creepy.
Yeah.
About an hour after he entered, Tina returned home, and Hoffman attacked her in the kitchen.
Oh,
Stayed there.
He grabbed her and dragged her into a nearby bedroom, and he began hitting her with a blackjack that he had brought with him.
oh
Yeah.
no.
So a blackjack, if you don't know, is a leather sack that's full of sand or kind of heavy powder. And you basically hit,
Oh, wow.
you hit people with it to get them to comply with you. It's not meant to knock someone out, but that's what Hoffman was trying to do with Tina. He's hitting her with it, trying to knock her out.
My
So
God.
that's what it's made for?
Well, again, it's not made to make someone pass out. It's just there to kind of, it's almost like a belt. You hit someone with it to make them listen to you. It's something police used to carry way back in the day, before nightsticks.
I don't know that.
So when that didn't knock her out, he started stabbing her with a knife that he had also brought with him. And this is when Stephanie Sprang entered the house because she had been out with Tina. And this startled Hoffman. And when she saw what he was doing, she tried to help Tina, but she was quickly overpowered by him, and then she tried to escape. He chased her down the hall, and she ran into Tina's daughter Sarah's bedroom. Now it's here that Hoffman repeatedly stabbed Stephanie in the chest, even after she was dead.
Oh,
Right.
He then returned to Tina and stabbed her repeatedly as well.
Isn't stabbing like known as like more of like a personal like attack too? Especially if they like keep going and he doesn't even know them, right?
Yeah, normally, so stabbing is definitely more personal, and the overkill aspect is usually reserved for someone that you have passionate feelings for. So this is unusual in that regard, yes. So because the family dog wouldn't stop barking, Hoffman killed the dog as well.
that's so sad.
Yeah, I love that you guys didn't do that when the people were being killed, but...
All of it's so
I mean, the people are sad too.
No, I get it. The dog is just being a dog. It doesn't deserve to be murdered. I get it.
no one did.
So Hoffman then dragged the bodies into a bathroom, and he began dismembering them. Or, as he called it, he was processing them. Yeah,
Processing them for what?
that's just the term he used. He was processing them.
It's so weird.
Oh, I hope he doesn't eat them like he ate the squirrels.
I feel like that's what's gonna happen.
Well,
Oh no.
he hadn't brought anything with him that could cut through bone. So while he's dismembering them, when he got to the joints, he had to, with physical strength, disarticulate all the joints, like pull them apart.
No. Ugh.
He then put the body parts in garbage bags and walked around pouring motor oil all over the spilled blood, because at this point he'd already decided how he was going to destroy any evidence. He was going to burn the place down. Because it worked so well the first time, right?
Quote unquote.
So that was when, unfortunately, Sarah and Cody came home from school.
Oh no, the kids.
Hoffman
Oh, no.
Hoffman had been there processing Tina and Stephanie for so long that the school day had already ended. And when the kids came through the front door and saw the blood, they immediately called out for their mother. Hoffman rushed them. Sarah ran into her bedroom, and Hoffman stopped and started stabbing Cody first because Cody was moving towards the door. Sarah got to her room and grabbed her phone and was about to call 911, but she stopped because she was afraid that if the person in the house knew she had called the police, that he might kill her. Hoffman came into the room and was about to stab her, but according to him, he stopped, and he couldn't bring himself to do it, and this is a direct quote. He said he couldn't bring himself to kill the little girl.
Well, kind of what we were talking about before, like little like girls, like not.
Yeah, it's that was before we hit record, but yes, we talked about the age groups of victims. Yes. So
Sorry.
No, it's okay. For the listeners, before we hit record, we talked about the typical ages of victims, and college age women and high school age girls are typically the most likely victims. So that's what McKenna's referring to. So then Hoffman then cut a wire off a fan that was in the room, and he tied Sarah's hands with it. He then gagged her and put a pillowcase over her head.
Did he suffocate her?
No, he did not. He's not going to kill her in the same manner.
Okay.
So he then brought her to the basement and he bound her legs, but he would later move her back into the kitchen, most likely because he didn't like her being someplace he couldn't see. While this was going on and while Sarah is tied up, Hoffman then, quote unquote, processed her brother Cody. Afterwards, he removes the pillowcase and blindfolded Sarah, and he put her in the back seat of Stephanie's Jeep. What Sarah didn't know was that she was sitting next to trash bags with her family members inside them.
Yeah, that's just horrible.
Oh my God. I can only imagine like the smell of like the dead people. Oh.
Well, at that point, at best, you're probably just getting like a coppery smell of blood because they haven't really started to decompose. It hasn't been long enough for that yet.
Oh, yeah.
So they drove away, and after a little bit of driving, Hoffman stopped the vehicle, and he told Sarah that she needed to stay where she was and not move, and that he would be watching her. After hearing him exit the vehicle, Sarah tried to look around, like underneath the blindfold, and she could see that it was dark outside and that she was near a ball field. All of a sudden, Hoffman just appears out of nowhere and begins screaming at her, telling her that he told her not to move and that he'd be watching her. So he tightens the blindfold, and he told her that if she did that again, he would kill her. Now keep in mind, she's 13 years old, and she has to be absolutely fucking terrified.
Oh, yes.
So Hoffman left her there for over an hour as he went and retrieved his car from where he had left it the night before. Upon returning to Stephanie's Jeep, he moved Sarah over to his car, and the two of them drove to his house. Once at his house, he carried Sarah into his bathroom and he removed her blindfold. It was at this point that she saw the walls were covered in drawings. They looked like something an angry child would draw, and he hung them all over the walls.
Kind of like when people go into like that psychotic break, they like write all over their walls and stuff.
Exactly, but he was doing it on pieces of paper and then putting the papers on the wall. He told Sarah that he had people watching the house and that if she tried anything, she would die. And at this point, he left again. He returned to Stephanie's Jeep and retrieved the garbage bags that he had left there. He literally left the body parts in the Jeep.
Ugh.
He puts them in his car, and he stopped at a nearby Walmart where he bought a tarp, more garbage bags, a turkey sandwich, and a Halloween shirt for $1.
That's so random.
Later, when police asked him why he bought the shirt, he was like, well, it was right next to the register and it was only $1. That was his response.
I guess he was hungry with the turkey sandwich.
Yeah, he must have been. It was a hard day of processing.
I don't know how you'd be able to eat after all of that.
Well, that right there just shows you how fucked up he is. And adding to that, there's video footage of Hoffman strolling around Walmart that you can watch on YouTube. He's just wandering about. Like, he just killed 3 people and a dog and abducted a 13-year-old girl. But, you know, he's going to shop at Walmart like it's no big deal.
Everyday things.
So at some point during his excursions in the woods climbing trees, Hoffman had found an old hollowed out tree in a nature preserve. And he decided that was where he was going to put the bodies of Tina, Stephanie, Cody, and their dog. He used his climbing gear, and he climbed 40 feet into the air, and he dropped each bag into the top of that tree. Now, keep in mind, a lot of time has passed, and Tina didn't show up for her shift at the Dairy Queen. So her boss, Valerie Hawthorne, became concerned because Tina was incredibly reliable. She never missed a shift. And she knew that Tina and her boyfriend Greg were about to end their relationship, and that's usually a really tough moment where things could get violent. So Valerie tried calling Tina, but when she couldn't reach her, she called the sheriff and asked them to go by and do a wellness check. Deputy Charles Statlin, around 8 p.m. that night, stopped by the house, but there was nothing amiss. There were no cars, there were no lights on, no one answered when he knocked or rang the bell, so there's nothing more he can do. And there's no probable cause. He can't enter the house, so he just leaves. Now at this point, Hoffman has finished putting the bodies in the tree, and he used Stephanie's Jeep to bring the tarp and trash bags back to Tina's house, and he left them in the garage, literally just missing the deputy. During this trip, he turned on some lights as he moved about the house, believing that no one suspected anything was amiss. He then attempted to use Tina's truck to go buy gasoline, the gasoline he was going to use to burn the house down. But the truck kept stalling on him, and he was forced to leave it in a parking lot and walk back to his own car. After getting to his car, he realizes that he's too exhausted to continue going, and he decides to return home and get some sleep.
Just left everything.
He just leaves everything exactly where it is. The gasoline is still in Tina's truck. The garbage bags and everything that he bought at Walmart are at Tina's house. And he's going to drive home to where he has Sarah tied up in his bathroom. So while Hoffman was out doing all this, Sarah was alone, tied up in his bathroom. And she realizes that the only way she's going to survive this is to do everything her abductor told her to do. She decided then and there she was simply going to comply and be as cooperative as possible. Around this time, that deputy goes back to the house to do a second wellness check. And this time he sees that there are lights on and that there's a new vehicle parked there because he had driven Stephanie's Jeep back.
Mm-hmm.
He knocks, but again, no one answers. And because he couldn't see that anything was obviously wrong, he again leaves without investigating any further. Now, Hoffman returns to his house and he finds Sarah, where he left her, and she begins talking to him. She's asking him questions about himself, and she's trying to humanize herself to him.
Oh yeah, that happens with a lot of kidnappers.
It's the best way to go. If they don't think of you as human, you're kind of screwed. Yeah. He took Sarah from the bathroom, and this is the first time she got to see the rest of the house. She looks around, and it is full of leaves. They're everywhere. There are large piles of leaves in the center of all the rooms. They're stacked in bags up against the wall as if they were sandbags in a bunker.
Wow, that's a lot of fucking leaves.
Like literally, they're like 2 feet high. It's crazy. And they're not fresh leaves. They're not green leaves. This is what you would rake up in your yard in the fall. And Hoffman's ex-girlfriend, that day she came back on October 24th to get her belongings and he had attacked her, she would later say there was not a single leaf in that house on that day. Which means that from October 24th to November 10th, he had completely filled this place with leaves. And his neighbors later commented that he only had one tree on his property, which meant that Hoffman had to go out into the woods and bring these leaves back with him.
That's some dedication.
And there are photos which are already on our Instagram, but I'll post new ones again when this releases. You should see how many leaves. It's crazy how many leaves are in this house. This is what gave him the nickname the Leaf Killer. So Sarah asked him about her family, and he told her that he did not kill her mother, her brother, or her dog. He then offered her some squirrel to eat, but she declined. He then offered her a bowl of cereal, but the milk was spoiled.
Ugh.
And Sarah, not knowing when she was going to get to eat again, she opted to eat the bowl of cereal.
I mean, I would too at that point.
I see, this is fucked up, but I think I would eat the squirrel before I'd eat the cereal. And I said,
Really?
only because spoiled milk, I'd be more weary of that than cooked squirrel. You know what I mean? Like, it's meat.
Me
That's-
personally, I would do the cereal without the spoiled milk, and I wouldn't eat the squirrel. I would just do the dry cereal, and I would eat it that way.
That's
Yeah, I
assuming
didn't
he
even think of that.
that's assuming he offered it to you without pouring the milk in already.
That's true.
Yeah, because it's not like you're at a restaurant. Like, this guy's just handing you something. I think I might be in the minority on people who would have eaten the squirrel. Listeners, let us know. What would you do?
Might be diseases in the squirrel.
Well, that's why if you cook it, though, I'm assuming it's like pork or beef. You just have to get it to over 155 degrees for, I think, 5 minutes. We work in the restaurant industry, listeners, so that's why I know that exact temperature.
That's-
Yeah. So that's what I would have done. But again, I'm probably the weird minority here. So Hoffman then tied Sarah to himself, and he fell asleep on the couch in his living room. And that's where poor Sarah would spend her first night in captivity, tied to her captor in a living room where the floor was a massive pile of leaves. The next
I'm
day,
so scared.
that must have been the longest night of her life.
Yes.
So the next day on November 11th, when Tina didn't go into work again, Valerie was still trying to reach her. She called the sheriff again, and at this point they learned that her children didn't go to school. So the deputies were out looking for Tina, and Valerie was calling everyone that knew her. She tried Tina's best friend Stephanie, but couldn't reach her either. But she did leave a voice message, and Stephanie's boyfriend heard this message. His name is Ron Metcalf, and he called her back. So the two of them decide that they were going to go to Tina's house together. Once there, they did the one thing police couldn't do, and they broke into the house. Valerie entered through a back window, and she found nothing but darkness and silence. And after walking a little further in, she saw blood everywhere. It was on the walls, on the furniture. There were drag marks through rooms. She said there wasn't a single body, just blood and pieces of flesh.
Oh,
I can't imagine. So she quickly calls 911, and she and Ron exit the house because they recognize that this is a crime scene. And police begin their investigation, and of course they start with the people closest to the family, which at this point, Tina's boyfriend Greg is a high on their suspect list because he's the boyfriend and they're breaking up. But his alibi checks out like 100%. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into how they cleared his alibi because we already know he's not responsible. A lot of podcasts will do this starting with the murders and try to make it a big mystery. But I actually think Hoffman is more interesting than the mystery of it. As police are learning about Greg, Hoffman woke up, untied Sarah from himself, but retied her up because he was planning to leave again. Now, it needs to be noted that Hoffman slept most of the day away. He didn't wake up at like 10 a.m. It's already dark when he wakes up, making Sarah's poor first day in captivity even longer in retrospect because not only is she abducted and forced to sleep in this room on leaves, but he sleeps the whole fucking day. So he leaves the house with the intention of returning to Tina's pickup truck and then going and burning down the house. That truck kept stalling on him and he had abandoned it in a lot. As he is entering that lot where the truck is, a cop stops him. Deputy Aaron Phillips stopped him because the lot wasn't open after dark, and he wants to know what Hoffman's doing there. Hoffman told him that he was waiting for his girlfriend to get off work, and he said that his girlfriend's name was Sarah. So Deputy Phillips
That
asked...
was a bad idea.
Well, you'll see as it goes. It just adds a creepy level to it all, you know.
Yeah.
So Deputy Phillips asks him for his ID, and after making note of his name, he sent him on his way because he's not doing anything wrong, not to his knowledge. But,
It's always right underneath their noses.
and Phillips, he did notice Tina's vehicle, and he reported it, but he unfortunately didn't connect the dots at this point between Hoffman and the vehicle. Hoffman later said that at this point he knew the house had been discovered. Something about what the deputy said in front of him had clued him in. So he knows he can't go back to the house and set it on fire now. So instead of doing what he wanted to do, he returned home and he moved Sarah down into his basement. This basement, it's important to note that it's not just a basement. There's also a hole in the wall, and he puts her into that hole, into a separate room where there's no other way in or out. And from there, he keeps her tied up, and he puts her down on another huge bed of leaves. Hoffman would later claim that Sarah liked this bed of leaves and that he himself wishes he could have slept there.
What the heck?
He's so fucking weird.
Who would like that besides him?
So throughout her captivity in this room, Hoffman would sometimes just go in there and sit and watch her, not saying anything. And then he would just leave and go back upstairs. Fucking weird.
So weird.
He would later confess that he looked up porn videos that explained how to perform oral sex on men, and he made Sarah watch them before forcing her to do those acts on him.
That's so disgusting.
She's only 13. Oh my God.
And he's 30. So yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Hoffman also gave Sarah a dictionary and told her to look up the word ransom and told her that he was hoping to have her released by Christmas.
What day is it at this point?
It's mid to late November at this point. So he's planning on keeping her a month. Yeah.
Okay.
He also continued to pretend that her family was still alive. Hoffman kept reminding Sarah that he wasn't working alone and that people were always watching the house. So she felt that she couldn't call out to anyone if she heard noises because she was afraid that the people outside might be working with him.
Do you think that he himself believes this, or he's just doing this as a scare tactic?
It's tough to say because he says so many weird things that it's entirely possible that he believed some of his own bullshit.
Okay.
So, and I don't bring it up later, it's in the book, but one of his neighbors had a dog named Sarah, and she would later say after Sarah, because spoiler alert, she is going to be recovered fine, right? And she would later say how bad she felt knowing that she was walking near his house calling out the name Sarah, not knowing this poor girl was being held captive.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to imagine Sarah hearing it, but being too afraid to call out.
That's
Yeah, so fucked up. So investigators were at Tina's house. They found bloody shoe prints in the kitchen and quickly realized that Sarah had walked through the bloody mess at one point. This gave them hope that even though there was a lot of blood, that they might find people alive. The reason they knew she walked through it is one shoe print size was larger, like an adult male, but one was smaller, and after comparing them to other shoes in the house, they realized it was Sarah's shoe print. Now, unfortunately, police at this point have to waste valuable time looking into Stephanie's boyfriend, Ron Metcalf, because Ron's neighbor called them and said they saw him digging a hole in his backyard. Ron admitted that, yes, he had dug a hole, but he was burying a pet rabbit that had died. But of course, police have to go and dig this up, and they waste all this time finding exactly what he said would be in that hole.
Mm-hmm.
Now, interestingly enough, Tina's ex-husband wasn't contacted by police initially. It was Greg, her soon-to-be ex-boyfriend, that had to reach out to him, her ex-husband. How fucking awkward is that?
Mm-hmm.
So
That is pretty awkward.
during all this, a huge search goes on. hundreds of people are out looking for the missing family. They're on ATVs and there are helicopters. The whole town is out there looking for them. And police do find the Walmart bags in Tina's garage, and they contacted Walmart. And this is where they got their biggest lead, because they saw the video footage that showed them their suspect and the vehicle that he was driving. And at this point, they're talking to Deputy Phillips, who had stopped him at that parking lot, and now they're able to put a name to his face, to Tina's truck, and they know who they're looking for. They finally know that they're looking for Matthew Hoffman. So they get their search warrant, and they go to his house. And they use a battering ram to knock down the front door and a flashbang grenade to startle Hoffman. They found him asleep on his couch in his living room. And after a search, they do find Sarah in the basement. But Hoffman had actually put a dresser or a big piece of furniture in front of that hole so that maybe they wouldn't see it. But luckily they did.
God.
Sarah said that initially she was afraid because she thought it was the bad guys coming for her and not the police. She remained quiet because she didn't know what was going on. But when police removed that piece of furniture, and they found her on this big pile of leaves, bound in the dark, with a trash bag over her jeans like a diaper.
Oh, shit.
Hoffman would later say that Sarah kept wetting herself, and he had to keep washing her clothes and letting her shower because she couldn't control it. But Sarah refuted all of that. She said at no point did he let her shower or wash her clothes. She was just left with that trash bag diaper.
So sad.
It is terrible. It's so fucked. It's like medieval. So after police took necessary photos, they untied Sarah. And the first thing she said to police was that she was worried that she needed to go to school. Police told her that...
Oh.
Yeah, police told her she didn't have to worry about school right then and there. They asked her if she knew where everybody else was, but she said that she didn't know. So police went and they made a public announcement that they had rescued Sarah and that they had arrested Matthew Hoffman. And at this point, the area intensified their search because now everyone was hopeful they might find everybody else alive. Police soon found all the evidence they needed in his home. They found the knife, his shoes, all of it. Now, Hoffman initially claimed that one day he had just come home and Sarah was there, tied up, and he didn't know how she had gotten there. As if she wouldn't have her side of the story to tell, right?
Right.
So he claimed that he had asked her what had happened, and she said that he had taken her, but he didn't remember doing it. So he just decided that he would take care of her. So fucked up.
I want to know what he believes.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, he's so fucked up in the head that it's tough to know what he believes and what he doesn't believe.
I know, or like blacked out during or something.
Well, Hoffman told police that he would tell them where the bodies were, but he would only write it down on a piece of paper, give it to his lawyer, and then that the police would have to drive him out someplace where he would try to escape and they needed to shoot him. And then his lawyer would turn over the location of the bodies.
What?
Yeah, that's what he wanted, yeah.
Wow.
Well, the police, they obviously can't do that, right? So on November 17th, Hoffman reversed himself and said that he would tell them where the remains were in exchange for them taking the death penalty off the table during his trial. So prosecutors met with the surviving family members and asked them what they wanted to do. The prosecutors literally let them make this decision, which they didn't have to do.
Mm-hmm.
The family decided to accept that deal and take the death penalty off the table because they thought it was more important to find the remains. So, in exchange for having the death penalty removed, Hoffman would have to plead guilty to first-degree murder, kidnapping, abuse of a corpse, and sexual assault, among other minor things. He would receive life without the possibility of parole, but if he tried to appeal that conviction, when he had to go back to his retrial for the appeal, the death penalty would become an option again. So it's kind of like an incentive not to appeal.
Right.
So Hoffman sent them to that tree. And when they found the tree, there was a small opening on the bottom, and they were able to use a flashlight to look inside, and they could see the bags. They decided to bring in a professional tree trimmer to cut a square at the bottom of the tree so that they could access the bags without further damaging the remains of the people inside. Hoffman requested that they not destroy the tree afterwards, but they chose to cut it down to keep it from becoming like a twisted tourist attraction.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie. I'm one of those people that like to stop at famous places like that, you know. I've gone to New York and I've gone to places where mobsters were shot down, shit like that, you know. I'm dark that way. So Hoffman tried to claim that he had tried to take care of Sarah, that he had been comforting her, that he had brought her food, and they watched movies together. And he said that he let her shower and that he tried to help her with her bedwetting, but Sarah said none of that happened. Now, what I think happened was when he was sitting there for hours just watching her, I think shit was playing out in his head that didn't really happen.
That he thought was like reality, and probably the movies that he said was probably like those videos that he was showing her in his head.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's so fucked up. Oh my God. Hoffman then also tried to claim that the sexual assault was consensual, despite the fact that she was his prisoner and only 13 years old, which we all know anyone under the age of 15 can't consent to shit, for the record. Although it is different from state to state. I've heard there is some state where it's as young as 14, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's still, he's fucking 30. Even if she's 17, it doesn't matter.
Whatever.
So Hoffman said that when the police arrived, he was happy because Sarah would be reunited with her family. At his sentencing, Sarah had a victim impact statement that she wanted read to him. She initially wanted to go there herself and read it to him, but was advised against it because she was so young and didn't understand what the psychological impact of that might be on her. But in her letter, she went on to tell him that she thought he was disgusting and that she wasn't afraid of him. She spoke heartwarmingly about her family and that he would never be able to take the memories she had of them from her despite everything else that he had done. Now, Hoffman was made to plead guilty to each and every charge as they read them out loud. And with each one, he spoke the word guilty loudly. But when it came to the sexual assault charge, Hoffman mumbled the word guilty, but the judge wasn't having it. He made him repeat it over and over, louder and louder each time to emphasize the point.
I wonder why.
Well, because he was trying to claim that it was consensual, and this fucking judge was like, no, absolutely not. You know? So Hoffman is currently serving a life sentence at the Toledo Correctional Institute and is still alive to this day.
Oh, wow. He's still alive to this day and he's in prison right now?
Yeah, it's only been 15 years. And he was only 30 then. So, yeah. I'm surprised someone didn't kill him.
Yeah.
So Sarah Maynard, after all this, started at a new school. There are some reports that at her old school, she had been bullied by other students in regard to the sexual assault that she had faced.
That's so messed up.
Kids are brutal. They really are.
I know.
So Larry Maynard, her father, and other family members created the Tina Rose Herman and Cody Alexander Maynard Healing Hearts Memorial Fund. This is a nonprofit to help victims of violent crimes. Sarah would go on to live with her father, Larry, and the two would work on a book with author Robert Scott called The Girl in the Leaves, which is the book that I read. In March of 2013, Larry and Sarah's stepmother, Tracy, were charged with abusing Sarah.
So she went through another horrible thing?
It didn't last very long, thankfully. But apparently Larry had punched her in the back, and 5 days after that, Tracy had kicked her down a flight of stairs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the charges were dropped, however, because both of them agreed to take parenting classes and psych sessions and counseling. Which, fuck all that.
Sometimes the court system isn't fair.
No, it's fucked up, yeah. So Sarah would go on to live with her maternal grandmother until she became an adult, and she now lives under a different name and reportedly has children of her own. But that's the last we know because she's living a very private life. And you know what? She's earned that.
Yes.
And that is the case of Matthew Hoffman, a.k.a. the Leaf Killer.
Wow. That was crazy.
Absolutely fucking nuts. Yeah.
You know, and has starting a new family and all that.
Yeah.
Going from all of it.
I did try to look her up to see if she had any social media stuff. Not that I would violate her privacy or anything, but I was curious. But from what I can tell, if she's on social media, it's under her new name, and there's no way to find her. And again, I would never violate her privacy. I'm happy that she's moved on. I do know that she's made some public appearances with other survivors, like Elizabeth Smart and some others. But for the most part, she's kept to herself, which, again, she's earned that. That's crazy. All right. So, yeah, that's our first revisited episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and hopefully you guys like this enough to join me again when I do other episodes. I hope I didn't scare you away.
No, it was a lot of fun.
All right, so thank you, everyone, for joining us. Once again, I am Janus Dead, and we have Madsters and McKenna. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.